Usually, when I'm watching an anime, the main character isn't what grabs my attention, it's what's behind them. There's something so appealing about the Shadow character. Don't get me wrong, I love the over-the-top cheery protagonist that forgives everyone as much as the next guy. But there's something so undeniably captivating about a Sonic that holds a gun and doesn't think twice about pulling the trigger when you mess with him. From an author's perspective, the question becomes, how do you progress a Shadow? If it was the main protagonist, simply slap a new power up on them and call it a day. But do the same with a Shadow, and you haven't just broken the archetype, you've sidelined your protagonist by spotlighting someone whose entire appeal was staying in the dark. When authors reach this point, they're forced to decide which kind of Shadow they want in their series. These types of characters usually fall into two main archetypes. The most common option is the Thematical Shadow, the character that serves as a perfect antithesis to all the ideals and beliefs of the MC. Everything the main hero refuses to do, this type does without a second thought, killing enemies for good, not forgiving villains because they had a desperate plea. It's like holding up a mirror, facing the protagonist and twisting the reflection. The best of these types usually share a similar goal to the MC, but just have a darker method of attaining it. This dynamic stretches further than just hero versus villain. When two characters mirror each other, you get double the depth and a far more intricate story. The second type is the Narrative Shadow, a character that actively suppresses their own presence, or rather has an ability that forces them into a supportive role. They exist for the sole purpose of making someone else look greater. Unlike a rival, they don't stand next to the MC. You'll usually find them behind the main star, elevating them in a sense. It's much harder to write a character like this, because their development is dependent on those around them. They're an extension of the main light, but in its purest form, their goal is to help someone else reach their goal. Let's start with the textbook thematical version, since it's the one we're probably the most used to. Shadow the Hedgehog is probably as obvious of an example as you're going to get. He's far from a supporting character. Rarely does he take the backstage to cheer Sonic on like his other rivals. If he's not fighting alongside him, then he's getting the job done himself in the exact opposite way that Sonic would go about it. Same answer, different method. He's an alternate protagonist, if you will. He kills, he carries around guns, he doesn't share Sonic's carefree, recklessly optimistic philosophy. If there's a villain and Shadow's got the chance to finish the job, best believe the plot is ending there along with that villain. This kind of characterization is able to stand entirely on its own. He's a complete character without Sonic, with his own goals and his own ways of achieving them. The reason it works so well is because that contrast between the philosophies of the main character and the Thematical Shadow doesn't define either character entirely. It only elevates it by highlighting the complexity and reasoning behind their morals and actions. That's why he's able to have his own game, his own character development arc, where he faces his flaws and overcomes past traumas, free of Sonic's meddling, and that game still be considered a masterpiece in many people's eyes. The Thematical Shadow isn't inhibited by the protagonist. They're typically individual characters that can stand just fine on their own in the story, but when they're put against their counterparts, they shine all the brighter. Where the Thematical Shadow starts to fall apart though, is when there's no clear contrast between the MC's philosophy and the Shadow's. A perfect example of this is Yuno and Asta. Sure, Yuno has magic and Asta doesn't. Yuno gets accepted by the best Magic Knight squad and Asta by the worst. But is that it? There's no clash in philosophy. When both of your characters have the same goal and you're trying to get there in the exact same way with the singular difference being your powers, the dynamic becomes stale and old really quickly. It's even reflected in their dialogue. Every time they see each other on screen, all they have to say to each other is, "I'll become the Wizard King." There's never any meaningful friction between the two. Take Gon and Killua for example. specifically when the Chimera Ants attacked and killed Kite. I'm sure they both wanted to honor his death, but they went about it in totally different ways. Gon sacrificed everything just to see Pito in a bloody puddle, while on the other hand, Killua did everything in his power to protect Gon from his own revenge consuming him, so Kite's sacrifice wouldn't go to waste. A shadow and light combo. It's dynamics like these that explore the intricacies and motivations of a character and make the relationship so much more impactful. When it's simplified to a petty goal like becoming the strongest, or in Black Clover's case, becoming the Wizard King, without any variation between how the character achieves that goal, the archetype falls apart completely and becomes a total waste. In fact, I'd argue that Asta is a more interesting character on his own without the dynamic of his counterpart Yuna, but that's a totally different topic for another day. The overarching message of the Thematical Shadow is that there's many ways to reach a single goal, but how a character reaches that goal versus their counterpart is what separates a mediocre story from a masterpiece. Now, let's shift our focus to the narrative shadow. I'd be insane if I used anyone other than the Phantom Sixth Man for this section. Kuroko isn't a basketball prodigy in the traditional sense. At the start, he has no physical ability, he can't dribble, he can't shoot, he can't defend. Nothing that would make him stand out in any capacity. A player seemingly destined to stay in the background. Most people would just give up and accept that they're destined for less than mediocrity. But not Kuroko. His power is that he's forgotten. Nobody sees him on or off the court, and by the time you do, he's already made a pass across the paint so somebody else can score. Keyword, someone else. In the beginning, it's never Kuroko that does the scoring or dribbling. He's only able to use his obscurity on the court to hide in the perfect position so he can make the perfect pass at the perfect time. Better teammates means Kuroko can make better passes, faster passes, making him a better player. He's a reflection of the team as a whole. But if you take all of his teammates off the court and it's only him, he becomes worthless. I mean, you can only get so far on your own passing. He disappears entirely. He's nothing without a light to reflect. So what does the author do about this? Well, the only natural thing a shonen manga can do. Kuroko improves. He learns how to shoot, defend, and even dribble. He becomes his own player. People start really noticing him. The invisible man isn't invisible anymore. For any other shonen protagonist, his characterization would end right here. But not when you make your main protagonist a shadow. The thing about the Phantom Sixth Man is that you're only a ghost until you're finally noticed. Teams start preparing for Kuroko. They recognize him as a threat. He's in the spotlight. And what happens when a shadow is in the spotlight? It vanishes. The only reason Kuroko is able to use any of those moves without anyone stopping him is because nobody expected them. Now that he's the main focus, he's no longer the Phantom Sixth Man. He's just the sixth man, the last player you'd pick on your team. He's back to being that same worthless player he was at the start. The narrative's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. The moment Kuroko finally starts being able to rely on himself, he's punished. This leaves the viewer in a really unique situation. Usually, the main character getting stronger is cause for cheer and celebration, but not here. Kuroko's development leaves a sour taste in all of our mouths. Sure, he's a better player now, but he's worse off for it. Now, the author's seemingly ridden himself into a ditch. Naturally, Kuroko isn't anything special anymore. He doesn't have his misdirection ability that made him a ghost anymore. He's just a sixth man, sitting on the bench. He becomes forgotten. And if you've been paying attention, you already know what that means. He gets his greatest power back. His tragedy of becoming the most forgettable player brings him back to where he started. Once again, he's the Phantom Sixth Man. It's a cruel loop that Kuroko can't escape from if he wants to be of any value to the team, which is what makes it significant. The times when Kuroko sacrifices his place in the shadows to score a last-minute buzzer beater for his team, seizing victory in the final moments. When he makes the final block of the game, forcing himself out of the shadows and into the forefront. He's metaphorically killing himself as a player, all for his team. His commitment to fighting for something other than himself leads him to throw away his most important ability time and time again. It's the ultimate reminder that there's more than one way to reach that final goal than just getting stronger. You can abandon your morals, sacrifice what makes you special for another. Being in the shadows isn't always about being the cool, edgy deuterogonist. Sometimes it's about having the strength to give everything you have for someone else's everything. The reason you see so many characters that are written with a thematical variation rather than the narrative is because majority of the time, the character's ultimate conclusion isn't always a happy one. The truth of the matter is that sacrificing for someone else's goal is sometimes a thankless job. It's even more tragic in Kuroko's case, because you recognizing his accomplishments actively sabotages him as a player. Writing a shadow is far more complex than just making a character that opposes the worldview of the protagonist. When you forget the substance of a tragic flaw that endears the character to the reader, you lose the whole premise behind what it means to truly be a shadow. When you put all those aspects together, the shadow trope moves from just being a glorified rival into a story that proves that the most common road isn't always the most interesting to see. When writing this character, setting the goalpost in the same position while giving characters different methods and philosophies of getting there is infinitely more interesting than a get stronger, beat the main problem, repeat plot that's become all too common nowadays. Thank you for watching today's video. What's your favorite example of a shadow versus light dynamic? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Peace.